Hey guys, welcome to the Centre Bounce. Today we're talking about Dan Houston, the 545,000 defender from Port Adelaide. Stay tuned. Big J, we're talking about Dan Houston. Who would have thought in 2023?
Mate, Mo Salah's going to be happy. Crockies, this is almost the episode just for him. Dan Houston's one of those weird players that always seems to fall in the cracks. If I go and look at his ownership, I swear it's going to be like 2%. And then halfway through the season, he'll be on 100 average, and everyone will be like, "Damn, I wish I had Dan Houston." I know it kind of happened a little bit last year. The man came out with a bang, scored like a 144 in his first game. Everyone was like,
Right.
"Holy shit, where's this player come from?" Tape it off a little bit, but for the people that had him, they'd be pretty happy.
Oh, 100%. People thinking that he was a genius, that they're geniuses here with this pod pick that's able to pump out 140. Exactly, with very low ownership. So he really is a great pod. I think even now he would certainly be, if those people out there really looking forward to a juicy pod compared to everybody else, especially with. I mean, it's still hard to. It's going to be very hard to have the exact same backline as everybody else with so many options in the back line, and you can't fit all of them in at this point in time. It's all about picking the right ones. So I think there's going to be a fair amount of variance in the back line, but very few will have a guy like Houston.
Yeah, it's really interesting kind of looking at Port Adelaide's team. We talk about the midfielders like Boken Wines and Rosie and Butters and all these players coming through. Even Alir kind of being like that mainstay in the back line. But Houston's really Port's go-to fix-it man. And he's really almost criminally underrated in the AFL, just how good he is. He doesn't need a huge amount of possessions, but he's really the player who seems to move the ball up and down the ground and is in the guts when he needs to be.
Exactly as you say, and he's someone with a great kick to handball ratio, which is definitely something that a lot of people are able to pick up on and hope that he can carry that to the next level, because he's shown that he's capable of having big scores. It's just the problem with him, the stigma that is now associated to Houston. He's a bit of a burn man because, as you say, because he's such a fix-it, Mr. Fix-It for them, he can come up with a massive score and then the next week be stuck on a wing and not have that same scoring output. That versatility, which is his strength as a player in real life. In terms of Supercoach scoring, it's not something that we want to see. We want him to have a stable, secure role. And by reports, it seems like he's going to get that at halfback.
Yeah, definitely. I guess kind of as we said, as their midfield gets better, he's not required in there as much, which will push him back to his natural position. Over the last 2 years, we've seen 16 games where he's averaged over 100, which is fantastic for us. He has really shown as well that he can have some monster scores, even with Port having a full team. Scores of 144, 139, 131. So there's some really good scores from defenders, that put him almost at the top echelon of, hey, this guy can score the most in a certain week. And last season, he had 6 goals over 120. So, like we said at the start, if you had him in, you'd be pretty happy.
Exactly. And then you'd obviously also have those moments where you were not so happy. Like, what are you doing, Kenny? Kenny, leave the man alone. You got to keep him playing centre half back. You can't keep throwing him onto a wing. Because when you look at, his price at this point, his price is there's not the most value there of 545K. When you're picking him to be a keeper. And when you're playing this guy, you want to have security in terms of what he's going to do. So when we go to our good friends over at DFS Australia and you look at the heat maps that you got here, you can tell that this person, he wants to have stability in his role of playing either in a central position, either in the midfield where the ball is or at centre half back, and that's where most of his scores are. In those games, there's 10 of those games just last year, he got 114 average from them. And you look at the heat map from it, you can see that he likes to get that ball, in a very central location where you can use that great kick to handball ratio. He had 25 kicks that game with 8 handballs. He certainly loves it. You come here, centre half back. He does like to get the ball in a central position and move the ball forward. This is, again, you can see there's quite a few of these possessions at half back where he loves to score his massive points. Again, this one, it says here Hassan a half back, but you look at this, you look at where he's getting the ball. Again, in a very central location where the heart of the action is. This guy loves to have the ball in his hands, and he uses it really well more often than not. So when you've got a guy of that caliber that you're now cementing is going to play that centre half back role, I think there's definitely upside to that selection this year.
Yeah, definitely. And I know check him out. Abs Magic has talked about it a little bit as well, about how well and how important kind of having a higher kick to handball ratio is. And Houston's a prime example of that. Some games he'll kick the ball 3 times more than he'll handball it. And that's all extra points that really add up. He's not a terrible kick either. So his disposal efficiency is quite good around the field. Either it's a small chippy kick or kicking over into a player that's in space, that kind of thing. He really kind of uses the ball well that way. Now, onto the cons a little bit. So we've talked about how he, likes to be around the ball and things like that. If he does get relegated to a wing at Port Adelaide, he kind of struggles. I think a lot of players do that in Supercoach. It's more of an AFL fantasy type role where uncontested possessions, running with the ball, that kind of thing is factored a little bit more than what Supercoach is. So just be careful if he does get relegated to that position. There's been talk that, they brought in a few other players to kind of cover those positions, that kind of thing. So maybe that doesn't happen this year, which would be fantastic for owners. And really just kind of his price is another factor that we've kind of put in here. So we look at him and we'd compare him to being like a Ridley type, compare him to maybe what you'd consider Dacos to be, or a Hayden Young. And for, basically 50K more, you're paying up to get that player. Sure, he has some proven ability, he can do it, but you've really got to kind of consider him versus those players.
And then you have just that little bit extra in that same price point. You've got a guy like Adam Sard, who has shown that without Williams now in the team, and with Doherty going to play in midfield, you're looking at easily 110 average for a guy like Sard as well, and he's roughly the same price. And for 50K, roughly 50K extra, you could end up going to an uber primo like your Stewarts, your Dawsons, your Doherty. So he's in that weird price range where it's like you could get value by going a bit less, or you could pay up for the security of having a top 6 defender in one of these uber primos. So it's a really tough one to sell, I think, personally.
Yeah, definitely. They've just lost Carl Amon at Port Adelaide, and obviously Hinkley's penciled, I think, Josh Sin to kind of play that role. If he can get up and play it, that's fantastic for Houston owners and people that want to bring him in. But if not, I think Houston might get pushed back to that position. Hinkley has said, hey, Houston's going to play half back. But if times get tough, if they're really struggling, if Sin gets subbed out and they need someone to run, well, Houston's their go-to fix-it man. So just kind of have to watch out for that. I guess, Joe, the question is Houston your team? How are you feeling about him? That kind of thing.
Houston, we've got a problem. No, he is not in my team. I am not going to select this guy. Definitely one that I will keep an eye on during the year, because obviously we've had a look at his scoring, and a lot of his scoring depends on his role. If he's able to, really cement himself in that centre half back position and the wings are covered, he's someone that I'll be happy to upgrade to later on in the year. Right now, though, with the uncertainty, I'm not going to go there. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm the same. There's a lot safer picks. And like we've said, Dacos and Young are a bit cheaper. And at the start, you just strap for cash to start with. So upgrade target for me, but definitely a watch and see. If Port's midfield comes out and is as strong as they are, Houston could be, a cheeky first upgrade.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's our discussion, guys, on Dan Houston, the burn man from Port Adelaide, who hopefully has better scoring to come into the future for those who believe in him. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We're pumping out the content pre-season, well and truly heating up. the season's around the corner, and we're going to be putting up a lot of videos in relation to those practice games, intra clubs. You never know. It could be a watch along for one of them, especially if some clubs. I know North Melbourne, very generous enough, going to live stream their game as well. So keep an eye out on the channel, guys. There's heaps to come.
Yeah, definitely. And remember, guys, we have our group competition as well. So just have to sign up for the group, like us on Twitter, and subscribe. All the information will be down in the description. Love to have you along for that. Some great prizes.
And remember, we do the hard work, so you don't have to. See you in the next video, guys.
Bye for now.